Back to the Charlie Marlow Show on 590 The Fan.
Charlie Marlow. Cam Janssen, you there, baby?
Hi.
There he is. Jim Hewer on the board. We're going to talk some NFL draft with our guy Tashan Reed, who's from St. Louis, went to Mizzou, and now covers the Raiders and the NFL for The Athletic. Tashan joining us on the phone. Tashan, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. I'm free from the draft weekend. It was pretty hectic, but now things are slowing down a bit. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. We'll get to all the draft things. First of all, for people that don't know a lot about you, so where you're from in St. Louis, we got to ask you, even though I'm not from here, where'd you go to high school?
Mm-hmm. Went to McClure. More specifically, I'm from Ferguson, born and raised there. But McClure High, the only, the original one. I know people get confused with all the different McClures out there.
Very cool. So I was reading your bio. So what, McClure, Mizzou, you covered Florida State for a couple years, and now the Raiders. What's it like covering the Vegas Raiders as they moved there to Sin City?
That's been interesting. Last year was an NFL season unlike any other, of course, with the global pandemic going on. It made it a little bit awkward covering the team, to be honest. Instead of being in the locker room and getting to know the guys, it was all through Zoom. So even though I was here in Vegas, it was almost like I was covering the team remotely in a sense. But I still had the chance to go to all the home games. I went to a few of the road games. The new stadium is crazy. It looks like a spaceship or something especially at nighttime, because it's lit up and it's right by the strip. So it's very interesting. Just kind of like you go to a Raiders game if you wanted to, and then hop over and go to the casinos right after. So, I bet this year, once we can actually, get fans in stadiums again and people can come out for the games, I'm sure it's going to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, man, the Zoom thing kind of sucks because you're not, intimate with the guys. I know it sounds kind of weird, but, being in the locker room and actually, seeing them, firsthand and stuff, you're going to get to know them a lot better and easier to talk to and things like that. But, dude, you got a nice situation going, dude. Right there in Vegas. You got that brand new facility, that huge stadium, which does look like a spaceship from, 1999 Independence Day, which is kind of creepy. But can I just say, how'd you get your gig, though? How does that happen? You go to Mizzou. Did you play football at McClure? Were you just a big football fan? But how did the Athletic reach you? And did you have a tryout? Did you have to write papers? How'd that all go down?
No, I didn't play football in high school. I played Pop Warner. I ended up stopping because I had a few concussions. But no, I was just really into sports in general. Football and basketball are always my two favorites, and I just had a passion for writing. I didn't actually connect the two until essentially right before I went to Mizzou. It was a big reason why I chose to go to Mizzou is, they have one of the top journalism programs in the country, and coming out of school, I had an internship, and, kind of through that internship, I just happened to network with someone who was an editor at The Athletic on the college football side. And I guess, I must have caught his attention because he reached out to me a few weeks later while I was into my internship at a paper in Memphis. And pretty much, after a couple of conversations, offered me the job to cover Florida State. And so it's really about networking, not just, the work that you do, but who you know, and kind of, building relationships with individuals, editors, and people in charge of hiring at these different publications. But, so it was just a combination of, the work that I did in college, writing about Mizzou and various other sports, and then, the connection that I made. And so it wasn't a tryout situation. It was, pretty much they reached out to me and then it came together. And as far as hopping over to the Raiders side, with them moving to Vegas, we already had a Raiders writer, my partner, Vic Tafer, in the Bay Area, but he wasn't making the move to Vegas, even though he was going to continue covering the team. And so they wanted somebody to actually be on the ground here, especially, with them moving into the new stadium and everything. And so I saw the job pop open and I applied for it, and I got it last year, kind of before everything got crazy.
Very cool. Right. Tashan Reed covers the Raiders for The Athletic from Ferguson here. And obviously covering the Raiders, they pick Alex Leatherwood at 17, offensive lineman from Alabama. One of the huge storylines with Alabama, 6 first-round picks, 6 in the top 24 picks of this draft. When you're looking at the draft as a whole, Tashan, what were your top storylines or takeaways from the weekend?
I think the biggest one, had to be, the Bears trading up to get Justin Fields. I know we all kind of heard the storylines about him coming into the draft, and it seemed pretty likely that he was going to slide. It was a matter of how far before a team grabbed him. And of the teams that were in the mix, I don't know why, but I just didn't think about the Bears. Even though obviously they needed a quarterback. No disrespect to Dalton, but them being able to pull that off and not really spending all that much draft capital to do it was probably the story of the draft for me.
So what the biggest takeaway besides that, like as far as like the quarterbacks are concerned? I mean, we know you have Trevor Lawrence, who did get married, which is very bizarre. He's going to sign a huge contract. I don't know why the hell he did that at a young age. But anybody have a steal that you think that this kid's going to be really good? I saw this kid. I did a lot of research on him. He kind of snuck by maybe in the late first or second round. Anybody that kind of stands out to you?
I think late first round, somebody that jumped out is cornerback Greg Newsome. He went to the Browns. Just off of talent alone, you could argue that he's, one of the best cornerbacks in the draft, top one or two. But he has some injury concerns that popped up. And so if he ends up figuring it out and staying healthy, he could be a pretty big steal there. As far as later on in the draft, Kenneth Gainwell from Memphis, running back that the Eagles got, he kind of slid down the board there, kind of the era of running backs not being valued as much anymore. It seems like people would call it a bad pick no matter where you pick one, but they got him in the fifth round, and you just look at him play. I know it's Group of Five and not a big Power Five school, but you kind of compare him to the running back that Washington just got out of Memphis, and I think he could kind of have a similar impact there with the Eagles. So I think that was a pretty good late grab at a position that seems to not be valued anymore.
We're talking with Tashan Reed, covering the Raiders for The Athletic. And how about your alma mater? You got Nick Bolton going in the second round, and then a great day 3 for Mizzou with 4 more players drafted, guys like Larry Roundtree the third, and the Raiders picking Tyree Gillespie in the 4th round there, the safety. So that's a good showing for Mizzou getting 5 players drafted.
Yeah, I think I saw a chart. They were in a tie for having, the 3rd most or 4th most players drafted. And, obviously Mizzou is an SEC school, so that's not, I guess, shocking. But, given that they haven't been, one of the better teams in college football, it probably surprised some people. So they had a pretty good day. And like you said, it was kind of funny seeing the Raiders draft Gillespie just because they didn't have a Mizzou guy on the roster beforehand. And they had already taken a couple guys who played safety, so I just didn't even think that was going to come together. So, it's going to be pretty cool. There's actually a guy on the roster, linebacker Nicholas Moreau, who's from St. Louis, so now they got a St. Louis guy and a Mizzou guy, so I got some connections over here.
St. Louis just keeps pumping them out, man, in every aspect. What's your take on this whole Aaron Rodgers situation? He's a princess. He's doing his thing, and what's your take on it? What's everybody saying in your realm of things over there?
I mean, I'm not mad at him. He's arguably, some could say he's the best quarterback in the league, top 3 at least, and I think they still haven't drafted a receiver in the 1st round.
Yeah, I know.
He's been there, and he's still playing well, and then they go and draft a quarterback, while he's still, kind of in his late prime. And, now that he's, coming off of winning the MVP last season, like he was trying to get another big deal, and they weren't going for it. So it's kind of similar to what Tom Brady was going through kind of at the end of his career there with the Patriots. And, I don't think Green Bay will end up moving him just because I don't know how you trade the league MVP, and not, get any kind of, suitable value back in the trade. I don't know if there's a way they can win that kind of a trade. But if he does get moved, it seems like the Broncos is the team that makes the most sense. Obviously they don't, got my Mizzou guy Drew Lock, but they don't have a settled quarterback there, and any chance you can get Aaron Rodgers, you're going to try to do it. And they have a really strong defense, and it kind of would almost be like when Peyton Manning went there later on in his career if that came together. So I don't think he gets moved just because I think it would be, Green Bay would be insane to do that. But if they, he said he's going to go host Jeopardy instead of playing football, then you got to get something for him. So I think the Broncos will be the spot that he ends up landing at if he does get traded.
We're talking with Tashan Reed, Raiders reporter for The Athletic here on the Charlie Marlow Show on 590 The Fan, 590thefan.com. Okay, Tashan, you got to give us your best Chucky story, your best John Gruden story. He seems like such a fun personality, right, with the visor, with the look. We always talk about Chucky. He did the whole quarterback thing on ESPN where he's doing the spider and he's listing all the crazy plays. What's it like covering him? You got to have some good Jon Gruden stories.
Yeah, it's, like I said, it's a little bit weird just because it's been all Zoom with him. But he's almost like a cartoon character almost. He's so animated, and you can tell he's kind of, even though he's a coach again now, he's still kind of in commentator mode sometimes when he gives some of his responses in these press conferences. I had a few moments where he gets a little spicy with me in the Zoom calls because I tend to ask him some tough questions. But I think, I don't have a particular story that jumps out, but kind of just watching, because I did get the chance to go and watch them at practice pretty much daily, both before the season and during the season. And, even though he's not old, but he's getting up there a little bit, that guy's still pretty animated and running around out there and yelling and, like I said, sprinting sometimes. And so he's really energetic. That kind of comes through no matter what he's doing, whether it's, the post-game press conference or at practice. And so hopefully, next year or this year, I guess, once the season rolls around, I have a chance to actually, have some in-person press conferences with him and kind of get around him, like you said earlier, a little bit more intimately to get some more of those stories. But I've kind of been, like I said, it's almost remotely, it's kind of like I'm still watching him on TV still in a sense. So hopefully I get the chance to actually interact with him a little bit more here moving forward.
And speaking of TV, how about the partnership, though, of Gruden and Mike Mayock, who both we know from TV? I mean, great football backgrounds from both of them, but both on TV a lot the last 10 years before getting back into the game for the Raiders. Gruden as the coach, Mike Mayock as the general manager. So even though they're both TV guys, they seem like polar opposites in Gruden having some more fun, and Mayock seems to me at least as more of just the hardcore X's and O's guys. Am I right about that, or does Mike Mayock have more personality than maybe we think?
No, he's pretty. I think that's a pretty accurate description of him. He's pretty straightforward. You might get like a smile and laugh here and there. He's always. Gruden doesn't talk to us after the draft anymore. So Mayock is kind of the. He takes all the heat. Whether they like the Alex Leatherwood pick, if people are upset about the pick, he's got to answer the questions after. So that probably factors into him always being maybe in a little bit worse mood. But yeah, that dynamic is interesting because even though Mayock is the general manager, it's Gruden who's running the show as a coach. Obviously, he's not the only coach in the league that does that. Bill Belichick is another example, but it's pretty much Gruden's show, and that's not too surprising. I mean, anytime you give a guy a 10-year, $100 million contract, it's got to be his show, right? And so, he's the boss here, and it's just kind of interesting that being the case with him being the coach.
Yeah, with $100 million. No, he loves the camera, but that's great though. Like that, the city loves that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the kind of people that are going to come watch. They want to watch all of that kind of stuff. But real quick with you, where are you living at, by the way? Are you able to like enjoy yourself in Vegas? You got a nice place, or are you like, man, I'm not there yet. I got to kind of live outside of town. Like, how's your setup in Vegas?
Well, so the Raiders, even though the stadium is off the strip, their facility is in a suburb of Vegas called Henderson, and so that's where I live, just to kind of be in close proximity to the facility because I go in there, every day for practice or press conferences in normal times and things like that. So it's a lot more chill than you would think. Living in a city like Vegas, it's not nonstop craziness, but you're only a 15-minute ride away from the nonstop craziness that is down on the strip. So Vegas is an interesting city like that. It's kind of similar to St. Louis in ways of like nothing's too far away. You're kind of 15 to 20 minutes away from everything. So even if you don't live directly like in the strip, you can get there from wherever. And so I haven't been able to fully experience the city, obviously, with the pandemic going on. June 1st, we're opening it up 100% capacity. And thankfully I have both of my vaccine shots. So this summer I'll definitely, be getting out here more and not going too hard. I don't want to end up like the Hangover
you're fine.
movie.
You're fine,
Yeah.
dude. No, I want you to go a little bit hard because I want some stories. Are you going to keep coming on like this? So enjoy yourself, man.
I will. Trust me.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. You explained it there. Of just Vegas has to be just really weird the last year or so, where you're used to Vegas being 24/7, 365. Doesn't matter if it's 5 a.m. to just being, crickets down there and not a lot of people there during the pandemic. I'm wondering, though, Vegas as a sports city, for years there, you got UNLV, and now in the last 4 or 5 years, you got the Golden Knights and you got the Raiders moving. So what's it like from a fan sports passion standpoint? Is it 50% hockey, 50% Raiders? What's it like right now, you think?
I think, the city there's a little bit of a disconnect with the Raiders just because they were one of the teams that didn't have fans in the building at all last year. So they haven't had the chance to really, like I say, experience the Raiders product, just watching them on TV. But there are a ton of Raiders fans here just because, Vegas, for context, it's only 4 hours away from L.A. The Raiders have a ton of fans there since they used to play there. There's a ton of California people here in general who came over, because the cost of living is cheaper and all that. So they have a really strong fan base here. They just haven't had the chance to really experience it. But the people here, they go crazy about the Golden Knights. They love the Golden Knights. I mean, obviously, they've been wildly successful for an expansion team, unlike most others. And even the Las Vegas Aces, WNBA team here, is really successful. So they have a really strong fan base. And so in the span of, 3 or 4 years, Vegas has become a legitimate sports city. And I think there's a real excitement kind of buzzing around the Raiders just because people, like I said, they haven't had the chance to really see what they're about, even though, the Raiders, they haven't made the playoffs since 2016. It's not like they're the best team in the league or anything like that. But their fans are diehards, man, so they're eager to see them. And so I think this year, knock on wood, if this pandemic gets in control, they're able to experience the Raiders, the Golden Knights, and the Aces. I think Vegas is going to be a really fun sports city to be in.
That is awesome. Tashan, appreciate the time, man. Thanks for coming on. You're welcome anytime. Tashan Reed, Raiders reporter with The Athletic. Really appreciate it, man.
See you, buddy.
Thanks for having me on, y'all.
All right. Thank you very much. That's Tashan Reed. Good stuff there, Cam. Living in Vegas, covering football.
Come on.
Good times.
He's got a cush gig, man.
It's hard work, though, too.
It's hard work, and he's live by the facility like that. You got to simplify your life.